how far should we be willing to go into somebody else's grief? So we started this podcast by saying grief affects more than just you. And then we talked about the fact that, the church's responsibility is we should be involved in people's grief. And then comes the question, and this is just me off the cuff right now saying,
recap.
How far should we go? And I've told parts of this story, but I don't think I've ever told the whole thing. My neighbors and dear friends, they've walked this path with me beginning to end. And I'll never forget Friday night, we're going to unplug the machines on Saturday morning. And Friday, Michael says, hey, who's coming to support you tomorrow? Random question. And I was like,
yeah.
What do you mean? She said, well, my whole family's here. Like, they've got their spouses. My mom's got dad. Dad's got mom. Kids are going to be here. Like, there's all kinds of people. Who's going to be here for you tomorrow? It's like, babe, I haven't even thought about it. I just want to spend time with you. It's not even crossed my mind. And she's like, I think that's important. You should have somebody. And it's not that I didn't have people supporting you. Like my kids had all been there. They'd all been there to see Michael and spend time with her and things like that. But it's interesting that I had a name pop into my head immediately. And I thought about that. If you were about to go through the hardest thing you've ever gone through, do you have a ride or die person in your brain that would pop in immediately and be like, they're my person? That's who I would call.
Wow.
And it wasn't even a second thought. I knew exactly who it was. And I texted, I said, hey, I actually said, Michael seems to think I'm going to need somebody tomorrow. Are you guys available? I think I made
little twinge of pride in there, right?
I think I made light of it. And they're like, we're there.
Yeah.
We're there all day.
Yeah.
And they showed up to the hospital and they just sat in the waiting room all day long. And she didn't pass away the first day. She didn't pass away till the next morning. And do you know that the next morning when I messaged them and said, Michael just passed away, she said, they said, we're already on our way. We got up this morning. We're heading your way already. The kids had just gotten there, and my friends met the kids at the door, walked them into the waiting room and said, hey, we're all here. What should we do? Should we send the kids in? And I said, without even thinking, because, in my mind, they're my people who I've asked to be there. And without even thinking, I said, well, just come, bring the kids in. Just bring them in. You can come in. It's fine. I'm in the moment. I'm not realizing that I'm putting them in the hardest moment those kids are ever going to go through. And my two friends, neighbors, walked in with those kids and just sat in the corner and watched all of this take place. Ride or die people. Grief affects more than just us. And then there's the question of grief should affect others, but then there's your people that, man, they're going to go to the hardest spot ever. I've thought about that. I've thought about in months past, like, what did I do to them? You know what I mean? Like they were willing to go to this moment and without hesitation, like they just did it. And then it made me think about how many of us are willing and ready at the drop of a hat to go there for somebody else. I had those people. Could have been somebody different, but it was them. I don't know. I think it's a great question. Who's the person or who's the couple? And I think everybody should have a ride or die. I don't think I've ever told that whole story where they actually brought the kids in and experienced that whole thing in the room with us. So,
sure, it gives you a unique perspective, super unique perspective on what they went through. Even though in the moment everyone's like, well, what's Curtis going through? What are the kids going through? But yeah, because grief affects more than just us, and people are willing to step in for us, and our ride or dies are willing to say, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
There is that moment where you're like reflecting and you're like, wow, whoa, that must have been hard.
Yeah.
Because put yourself in their shoes.
I have. I've thought back and thought, man.
Yeah.
Could I have done that?
How hard would that have been for you?
Yeah. Could I have done that for somebody? Like Michael just passed away and the kids were coming in. And if you remember the story, I shared it on one of the episodes, you know, I had the kids all grabbing an arm and a leg, and Wesley like literally gets on mom's lap, and, you know, there they are over in the corner experiencing all that. Like, what was that like? Holy cow.
Yeah. Where that brings me, Curtis, is the person who is like, I don't know that I would have a ride or die.
Right.
And I think there's two parts to this. We know that the church is not just a building.
Yep.
The church is the body of believers who trust in Jesus and follow Jesus. And there's so much community that God brings in church. And so for anyone listening to this who's not in church, man, just give it a shot is what I think we would both say.
Yeah.
Is give it a shot and find that community. And then the second piece of this that I think is really applicable is if you are in church, be willing to go into depth with a brother or a sister, right?
Yep.
Be willing to have deep conversations, because I just have an inkling that these friends you're talking about, it hasn't always been surface level conversations. You've worked through some stuff together.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And because you've worked through some stuff together, like the threshold pretty high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if it would have been like, hey neighbor, I like what color you painted your garage forever, would this person have ever been able to do this?
No.
As opposed to like, how can I pray for you? What's going on in your life? What's God doing in your life? You know, carry this burden for me, friend. And so applicably, if you don't have community, it's found in the body of believers.
Yeah.
And two, you can be in church your whole life and stay on the surface and never really go into great depth where you'll find your ride or die. It's kind of what's come to my brain.
Yeah, I agree. Am I really the kind of friend I need to be for somebody going through this?